I have been challenged by YouTuber and friend Jorbin the Elder Goblin to show off my dice collection, so that's what we're going to do here today. Now, normally this YouTube channel is about tabletop role-playing game design philosophy, but today's is a little break from that to talk about dice and their use and some GMing tools that I've been using when I run games at conventions in my local game store. So let's hop into this fun little video for the holidays. Alright, we're going to start with my most used dice, which are my sets of metal dice. Several years ago I started collecting a couple sets of metal dice, and I just loved the heft of them. And as they get worn down, the patina on them actually I think looks very nice. And these are pretty heavy duty, and at the time they were pretty expensive for dice. Metal dice have gone down in price a lot because I started getting these over a decade ago. But I really like them. I got 4 or 5 sets in total, and these are my go-to for any role-playing game for a really long time. And when I'm playing something like a wizard, I'll add in, 8 d6s that are fire color for my fireball dice. But the set I've been using currently are actually 3 sets of promotional dice I've gotten, and I've talked about these before on my channel. These 2 are gemstone sets from Dice Nest that I got at a previous promotion with them that were really cool. They're definitely more expensive than I'd ever really want to buy myself, and because they're gemstone, they actually chip a little bit from wear. I haven't been storing them in the appropriate container and they sort of wear down over time. I've got a couple Arcane Eye tokens from Shadow Dark, which are nice, but these are probably my favorite dice overall. These are Monomake's high visibility dice. They're big, they're chunky, they're easy to read. I love rolling them. They're just really nice. If I only had to have 1 set of dice, it'd be these. And Jorbin the Elder Goblin, he agrees with me on this.
Probably my favorite set of dice right now. I never shut up about these.
These are the dice to use for everyday die rolling when you're getting old like me. And I put them in this really big, nice TFE branded dice bag that I got from a promotion on a giveaway on Shield's Rest YouTube channel, which is a YouTube channel I follow. So very nice stuff, big hefty leather bag that I store them in. And over here we've got some of my oldest dice and one of my oldest dice containers. This is an incredible handmade leather D20 with runic numbers on them that my wife got me from a vendor at our local Ren fair that is just so cool. And this is where I store my miscellaneous dice, just sort of random dice that I've been collecting over the years, a couple leather D6s that aren't properly balanced, of course, but anything that I'm not sure of just ends up in here. These transparent dice are actually some of the oldest dice I own, having been some of the first sets I bought. I don't really use them much anymore because they're a little hard to read, but they take me back for sure. So anything that doesn't have a home, it ends up in this awesome dice container. Now, I never really use these dice, but they're really cool because they're Diablo promotional dice. So these were really cool. I actually went to BlizzCon many years ago and got these there. Just really cool dice. They were in the swag bag you get. Really like them, but they're actually too light for me to want to roll them. I just think they look cool. And they're in a bag with a tiny set, super tiny set of dice that I also rarely use, mainly because I know I'm going to lose them. So they sort of come together just as collector items. This huge heap of miscellaneous dice are the Tales from Elsewhere promotional spillover. So when I was making the dice bags for the taking to Gen Con, which we'll come to in a second, there were a lot of extra dice since I didn't need to use all of them, and so I have this huge set of multicolor dice that are all really pretty and very high quality, even though they're really inexpensive. And they sit mostly unused at the moment, but should I ever need to put together additional packs of special use dice, I've got this huge heap of them here. And next to them were some dice that I used to use when I would take them to play Magic the Gathering, because these are spin-down D20s, which are useful for playing Standard in MTG. They start at 20 and you can increment them all the way down for counting life totals in Standard. I mostly play Commander now, and I don't use this setup for it anymore, so this little bag doesn't see a lot of play, but it is still a nice set of fairly clear dice that I can use for +1/+1 or -1/-1 counters and spin down. This thing contains all of the Tales from Elsewhere Gen Con promotional dice sets for the pre-gens, because each pre-gen had its own set of dice and miniature that went with it, and so this is just all of them because I had to have 2 sets of every single one. So these black dice were for the grim Reverend Hezekiah Pace, and they have the dice that he needs to play his character. And so this is just a storage of all of them and the extras I had from putting those together. But yeah, these were all brought to Gen Con and saw a lot of use. They were great. And speaking of Tales from Elsewhere related things, I have a really premium set of metal bullet dice that I got some time ago, and they're very cool. These were a gift, and they roll pretty well. They're very hefty. I usually don't take them around with me, honestly, because they look too realistic, and I don't want to get in trouble by pulling out hyper-realistic metal dice like at Gen Con or anything like that. But these are really cool. These are very flavorful, of course, for Clockworld, right? These blood-covered metal dice are very cool, very flavorful. Definitely expensive, though. And further on bullet dice, here is all of the dice we had printed for Gen Con. This is community member and artist and game design collaborator Red Richard built all of these. He 3D modeled them and then printed them and painted them. So these are shotgun D6s, which are what the coach gun uses in Clockworld. And they also have the numbers on it, but it has the injury results as well, serious and critical, and the blank ones being strain. Similarly, these D8s, made by Red Richard, are bullet D8s because the 6-shooter uses a D8 in Clockworld. And some of the folks that went to Gen Con got to go home with a couple of these, and they're awesome. And then these are injury D10s. They're not in the shape of a bullet or anything like that, but they're longer to be more in the rough size of a D20 to make them a little easier to roll. And what they actually do is they do have injury demarcations on here. 2 broken bones, like the 2 on the dice, is a serious injury. 3 broken bones is also a serious injury. And then the 1 is the skull, the critical injury, the cowboy skull. So these are awesome, also made by Red Richard, just super cool. And these are other test branded dice that we were trying out of various colors that also came out pretty well. They're a little light though, heft-wise, but they look pretty darn good. Over here we have some game design stuff that I keep. Fudge dice are just handy when doing design. I have a number of blank dice that you can just write on. And this is for when designing games, mainly for board games where I want to quickly iterate on different die faces without having to convert numbers to it, if I want special symbols with special weighting on the results. And it's always useful to have dominoes pieces as well when doing game design, either just for chits, face down or face up, and dominoes are just really interesting from a design standpoint. And with them is Pepe. This is actually a coin purse that I've used dice for that I got many years ago in Mexico. That is in a rural part of Michoacan. There's an actual frog that I have here, the strangest dice bag I have. But I roll in a dice tray, which I have here. This one I made. I made this myself with just a few dollars of leather and a couple clips or brads here, little snap brads, and I made that myself. And this is what I actually use every time I play role-playing games. It folds up like a piece of paper. It's very simple, and it protects the table from my hefty dice. I do have a nice roll-up dice tray that is for my wife. That's very nice, a little smaller, but that one doesn't see a ton of use, mainly because it doesn't sit flat very well. Mine was scored well, I think, and it ends up creating a better tray. So this next part is actually going to be about GM screens and other player accessories. Now, this is technically going to be sponsored. These 2 items over here were sent to me by Dragon Shield for free on the condition that I do provide a review. I'll be giving my very honest review, though, about these 2 products. The rest of these were purchased from me. So I'm going to tell you about what my experience has been GMing and running games for over 25 years and what type of screens and accessories I usually bring with me. The oldest screen I own, GM screen, is this, the greatest screen in the world, I think is what it's called. The world's greatest screen. And this is a vertical, so a portrait-style, double-sided transparent screen. I'm fairly tall, so having something nice and tall that I can put portrait-style slips into was really nice. I could put monster stats in here, printouts from an adventure, but what I like about these is that they're transparent on the other side with slips for you to put things in. So I'd put artwork in, NPC summaries, rules reminders, whatever I'd need. So I used this one for literally like a decade easily, one of my most favorite ones of all. I eventually purchased one that was landscape because I was finding that the height of this other one was kind of getting in the way, and I wanted to do something a little wider, which the landscape one provides. But again, these are world's greatest screen, super simple, slips on both the inner facing and outer facing portion, which are great for just versatility. If you're going to be running lots of different systems, having something you can customize based on the system and session is wonderful. This other GM screen that I ended up picking up, I do really like. This is a Dragon Shield screen. This is a pretty basic one. This one I did purchase myself. Got this a few years ago. And what's nice about this is it's a really sturdy and well-made material, and the inner slips are more like little pockets, which makes it very easy to slip things in and out. My big criticism of the world's greatest screen is that over time, with pizza fingers and just wear and tear, these slips get really hard to slip things in and out of. Stuff gets stuck in there and you have to try to get the paper out, and it can be quite difficult. With the pocket style that this product uses, it's really easy to swap out materials. I really like this. It feels premium and high quality, and I took this with me to Gen Con. Now, let me talk to you about the player companion and the GM companion that was sent to me by Dragon Shield. Now, I use a lot of Dragon Shield products, mainly for Magic the Gathering, because I use their card sleeves, but these two are sort of premium companion boxes. So this one's called the Player Companion, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I ended up using this for a few sessions of my local D&D group and sort of put it through the test. And what this is meant to be is an all-in-one box that has everything you need when you go sit in for a session. And it's got this big inner pocket that fits one D&D size book. D&D books are almost 400 pages, and it fits just one of them with no room to put anything else on top of that and have it still close. It's got a space for pencils, writing units, a little pocket, padded pocket for a miniature, and a slot here to put in dice to store as well. And the large pocket that holds the book, when you take it out, it acts as a dice tray. This slip here, you can put a character sheet in, and it is dry erase, so you'd be able to slip your character sheet in and note it as you're playing, and just dry erase without having to erase through your character sheet. You can also just fold that under if you don't need it, and it compacts significantly. Now, I actually didn't end up liking this when I was using it. Now, it's very high quality. The make is good, it's solid, it's clearly made quite well, but it's also really big. So it's quite large. Here's my normal dice rolling tray. I'll use a tablet for my character sheets, not D&D Beyond, just basically a character sheet that's a piece of paper but digital. And this is just a lot. It's big and cumbersome, and it takes a lot of table space as one unit. With these two small items, I can maneuver them around as I need to, but this is just one big block. Additionally, it's too big to fit in my normal backpack, my normal travel bag that I bring with me. It doesn't actually fit in, while these two items compress down and will fit just fine. Additionally, since the book, D&D books are so big and this slot is not that large, I can't actually put both of these in there and store them, so I would need a separate container for my tablet anyway, or any other books I may need to bring. So this doesn't end up saving space, I've found. It is a large item and it's sturdy, but it feels like overkill to me when it comes to what I would need as a player. I want the player's handbook and my stuff to write with, and I want to be able to put that in a bag, because this doesn't have any carrying strap or anything, and it's too large to put in a backpack, or at least the little carry bags I use when I play games. So it's not really a realistic travel companion. And when I look for things that I'm going to travel to conventions with, or to my local group, I want something convenient, compact, and efficient. Next, I'm going to talk about the GM companion, and this is a big old box. It's very high quality, very pretty. I got it in this nice red, and this is meant to be something to carry miniatures around with, to keep them sturdy and safe. And this opens up to reveal, I opened it upside down. Set that aside for a moment. Should have looked at the label on the side. But the lid is a Dragon Shield GM screen that's magnetized. Oh, I'm difficultly getting it off here. There we go. It is magnetized, closed around it. And this is a super high quality GM screen. It has a phone slip, things to strap things into. It still has the pocket style for pages, which I do love. It is one-sided, so there's nothing you can put on the outside. I usually use a clip or something if I need to hang something over, but it's a very sturdy and large GM screen that doubles as the sealant for the miniature container. Now, the miniature box is pretty cool. It came with a pen and some cards that you can write on, and it's got multiple layers of miniatures. However, each foam layer is pretty shallow, and large-size D&D minis with a 2-inch base don't fit in here. And so you'd have to remove a layer or cut out a layer, I think, to actually fit 28mm large or huge base minis. And I use a lot of big monsters when I run games, and so I would probably need to modify this or remove layers to store my miniatures in it, but it does seem like a pretty decent way to keep them safe. Now, this strap is not a carrying strap, but to hold it together. And that comes back to the same issue I had with the player companion. This is a big honkin' box. Doesn't fit in a backpack, doesn't have a strap to it, and so how am I supposed to take this with me when I'm at the convention floor, or I'm going to my local game store, or my local game group? How am I supposed to realistically use this when I'd have to carry it underarm the whole time? I'd have to just carry this in my hands, right? And so that's pretty inconvenient. And again, it takes up a lot of space. When I have a bag made by another YouTuber, and I'll grab that in a second, by Runeforge, and it contains pretty much what all of this would in just a shoulder-carried bag. Has a small amount of mini storage in it. It has pockets to hold dice and my books. And so when I look at this, I think, wow, premium product, sturdy, really well made, but it seems more inconvenient to bring with me than just literally a backpack. And so that's kind of the gold standard that I apply any accessory to. Is this easier than just a shoulder bag or a backpack? And the answer is often no, because things that require me to hold them in my hands, or that don't compress down, or I can't throw over the back of a chair at a local game store, are just immediately going to be inconvenient to use, as I'm a big local game store and convention goer. And so convenience, portability, compactability are what I look for. Now, having said all that, these two products are very high quality. I mean, they just feel premium and well made when I held them and used them, but they ended up just being more in the way than helping me stay organized or helping keep my things safe. So I'll leave that up to you to decide on whether or not this would be useful for you. It's definitely not a matter of quality, it's a matter of function for me. It's the juice may not be worth the squeeze here for just how large and uncompressible these boxes are. But again, thank you, Dragon Shield, for sending them to me. I'm still actually a big fan of Dragon Shield products, mostly when it comes to trading cards, and I do like their GM screens. But these two objects, I would say, are overkill, especially for their price. But I hope you found that interesting, and again, this was sponsored by them in that they sent me these two products for free. But with anything I'm going to talk about here on the channel, I will always provide my honest review, like in this case, where I didn't care for them at the end of the day. But thank you so much for checking out that little mini sponsored segment.